Very pleased to have with us Congressman Trey Gowdy on the program. And Congressman, thanks so much for your time, sir. Really incredible stuff at the House Oversight Committee hearing today. It was, what were you hoping to hear from Attorney General Eric Holder with your questioning?
Hope is a big word. I was hoping to hear some level of accountability and acceptance of responsibility. And Patrick McHenry from North Carolina did a wonderful job of highlighting the fact that absolutely nothing has happened to anyone in Maine Justice as a result of this botched investigation. So once I had those hopes dashed that there would actually be some acceptance of responsibility, I just wanted to prove, using his own documents, that there is no way to argue the Department of Justice in Washington, not Arizona, but Washington, Maine Justice, knew that gun walking was taking place both during Fast and Furious and before Fast and Furious.
Yeah. And, one of the things that we've heard from the Attorney General, he continues to say that mistakes were made, this was fundamentally flawed, but yet there's absolutely no acceptance by the Attorney General of any responsibility for this whatsoever.
No, it's the fault of other people, and my version of leadership is a little different from that. He's the one who put the Lanny Brewers in charge. He's responsible for what people under him do, both practically and ethereally, and I just think leaders accept at least as much responsibility as they have coming their way, and really good leaders accept more. They want to turn it into a conversation about the need for more gun laws. And again, I wish I had had more time. James Langford from Oklahoma and I were talking outside the committee room. If I'd had 5 more minutes, I could have walked him through how the current laws we have now were more than sufficient to prosecute a gun trafficking organization.
And that's so true. And, he sat there and he talked about how we need to reinstate the assault weapons ban. And, as you're pointing out, what difference would that have made when you look what happened with Operation Fast and Furious? And I think what you were highlighting before about somebody new, you look at Lanny Brewer, and there he is in Mexico. As you said, there's emails, there's memos talking with Mexican officials about letting guns walk.
That was an amazing moment for me, because here we have this DOJ attaché in Mexico named Tony Garcia, who had the good sense to know this is a horrible idea, while Lanny Brewer, who's supposed to be one of the 100 best attorneys in the United States, at least according to his website, who's the criminal chief of the Department of Justice, and he still doesn't get it. In February of 2011, he still doesn't get that you don't take the chance on letting weapons get out of your control. And with respect to the gun laws, look at 924C and all the letters that come after that in Title 18 924C code. You can get up to life in prison for the second fully automatic weapon used in a drug trafficking crime. And for a side of the aisle that doesn't believe in the death penalty, life without parole is as tough as it gets. So what do you want that you don't already have? You can put them in jail for life. You don't have to have a gun trafficking statute. You don't have to have more notification. If ATF would just quit sending guns to Mexico, this wouldn't have happened.
Right, and they don't want to talk about how the gun dealers, they didn't like what they saw going on either.
No. In fact, the gun dealers, several of them were tremendous sources of information. They knew enough to know this doesn't look right. It's not right. My question is, how many other investigations similar to this went on that we don't know about? We know about Fast and Furious. What are the names we don't know about?
Well, absolutely. And one of the things that was brought up this afternoon, you talked about OSADEF and this being an OSADEF case. There are specific things that have to happen, when a case is of that nature. And he said, every significant action has to be approved. There is an organization, part of Maine Justice, that has to approve all of these instances with Fast and Furious. And yet Holder couldn't even answer whether or not that was done.
Well, that was Patrick Meehan, who, as you can tell, is a former United States attorney. Did a splendid job, and all of that falls within the umbrella of there's no way. What they wanted to do was blame the U.S. Attorney's Office in Arizona and just say this was a rogue office that did a bunch of stuff that we didn't know about. Well, the problem is this little thing called email. We have the emails where you did know about it. We've got Lanny Brewer, and Patrick's right. Wiretap applications have to be approved by Main Justice. OSADEF has to be approved by Main Justice. They can't wash their hands of it. So that may be why we're not getting the documents that we've asked for from the Attorney General and the Department of Justice. We've gotten, 1/8 of what the Inspector General's gotten in terms of discovery.
Right.
And he says he's not going to give the rest of it to us?
Yeah, and I got to say, that's just unbelievable. The graphic that was put up about Stonewall City, where, not just 8% of the documents that the Justice Department has identified as relevant to Fast and Furious have been made public. 48 out of 70 justice officials involved in Fast and Furious have been placed off limits to committee investigators, and yet you've got the Attorney General saying that they've been so above board and so cooperative, and they're going to continue to be so cooperative in the future. It's unbelievable to hear that.
And that doesn't include the former criminal chief in the District of Arizona who invoked his Fifth Amendment right not to incriminate himself.
And I wanted to ask you about that because you talked about granting Mr. Pat Cunningham immunity, or a special prosecutor to grant that immunity. Why do you think it's so important to have him come before your committee? Because Holder said, I have no idea why he's taking the Fifth.
There are scores of people we would like to have come before our committee, and some of the folks who don't come for, what we had today, which is a full-blown hearing, their depositions have been taken, and that's when Mr. Cunningham invoked his Fifth Amendment right, was when we were trying to take his deposition. I don't have any idea what Mr. Cunningham knows or what he did. And you got to be careful granting immunity because you don't want to give immunity to the trigger person. By the same token, it's so surreal that you and I are even discussing whether to grant immunity to a former federal prosecutor to tell us about a botched gun investigation. My point is this: we cut the sentences of all kinds of crooks all across America every day. Sentences are being cut. Deals are being made so people will testify against others and cooperate. That's all part of it. I wanted to ask the Attorney General, have you thought about finding out what Mr. Cunningham knows? Because the Fifth Amendment doesn't mean you don't have to talk. It means you don't have to incriminate yourself. You can grant him limited use immunity, and then now what he knows, I don't know. I would like Mr. Brewer to come before the committee. That would be a very interesting morning from my perspective.
But when you look at Attorney General Holder and the way he answered questions today, or didn't answer them for that matter, is this administration who is saying to you, hey, we're going to do it the way we want to do it. You can ask for the documents. You can threaten contempt of Congress. But you know what? Hey, we're going to do it the way we want, and that's the way it's going to be.
Well, we're in full-blown political season, which that seems to be a year-round sport in this town. And, of course, we have an election coming up in November where the president is going to be reliant upon Hispanic vote if he wants another 4-year term. So my guess is they want to marginalize this investigation and pass it off as politics as usual because if I were certainly if I had connections to Mexico and I saw the brazen way that this administration, again, keep in mind, Lanny Brewer is in Mexico in February of 2011. Do you think he bothered to let the Mexican authorities know, by the way, I got some really bad news? Did he give them the courtesy of a heads up that a bunch of your citizens may get killed with guns that an agency under our jurisdiction let walk into your country? I know they want this to go away, and if they can't get it to go away, then they're going to marginalize it and say that we're a bunch of crazy Republicans that just want to embarrass the White House and the Attorney General. They can't say that about me. I like the Department of Justice. I want to see it succeed.
Well, right. and Congressman, I mean, it was really something else to see some of your colleagues on the House Oversight and Government Reform Committee, including, I have to say, my Congressman, Jerry Connolly. sucking up to the Attorney General today. I mean, I have to say, I was really embarrassed that this was the way my congressman was treating the Attorney General, talking about, what a man of honor he was, and, just singing his praises. We saw the report that was issued by the Democrats in the House Oversight Committee earlier this week, basically saying, the investigation is concluded, and DOJ did nothing wrong. It was all these low-level staffers in Arizona. I mean, how can you even draw these conclusions at this point, given the sheer number of documents and the sheer number of individuals that have not been made available to you?
I have decided to save the Minority Report in case my Ambien prescription runs out. So I have not had a chance to read it yet, but nor do I think I am going to, for this reason. I don't need them to tell me what the documents say. I can read them myself. I sat there and went over with the Attorney General 6 different pieces of evidence that prove beyond a reasonable doubt your department in Washington, not Arizona, in Washington, knew or should have known of gun walking. And he really didn't have a response to it. He tried to say, well, this was wide receiver and not Fast and Furious. The only problem is the document doesn't mention wide receiver. We can easily prove that his guys were asleep at the switch, and that doesn't even get to the wiretap applications. We can't see those. There's a court order that won't allow us to see it. You and I both know the factual predicate that you have to lay out to be able to tap someone's phone is detailed and involved. I guarantee you, whoever read the wiretap application would have known gun walking was how we got where we are.
Congressman, I got to ask you, more hearings, or do you need to move forward with some other direction? Contempt of Congress, special prosecutor, what do you think needs to be done?
Probably all of the above. And I don't.
How soon do you think?
I'm gonna see Mr. Issa on the floor after the hearing broke up. We had a vote. I want to ask him. I know that there are more witnesses that are planned to come. I know that he has a date in mind by which, if the Department of Justice doesn't comply, I'm sure he's also mindful of the fact that every time we try to move forward, the other side and the White House are going to accuse us of political shenanigans. So we have to play offense and defense at the same time. I can also tell you this, in talking to my colleagues, there is a lack of confidence in the Department of Justice. And if this were agriculture or tourism or the Department of Politics, I'd say so what? It's the Department of Justice. The lady wears a blindfold for a reason. It really shouldn't matter whether you're Republican or Democrat, progressive or conservative, whatever you want to call yourself. We've got one top law enforcement official. We got one Department of Justice. And I have lost confidence in the leadership of the Department of Justice. My colleagues are increasingly getting there. It's not going away. The time, I get asked back home all the time, is a fair question, is a legitimate question. I don't know what the time table is. I suspect Mr. Issa is going to give a little while longer to comply with his subpoena, and then we'll start talking about contempt of Congress.
And you said you care about DOJ. You're a former prosecutor. I mean, did you ever, you mentioned, taking the Fifth Amendment. Did you ever hear of that?
Only when our wives ask us a question from time to time. But not only was I a DOJ prosecutor for 6 years, I was, interestingly enough, hired during the Clinton administration. So one of the many things I like about law enforcement and prosecutors is there aren't Republican or Democrat facts. They're just the facts. I still have friends, lots of them, who are in the United States Attorney's Office in South Carolina. I got an email today from a friend of mine who's an ATF. Anyone who thinks that this is a witch hunt or a vendetta, it's a search for the truth, and it would be helpful if the Attorney General would make the documents and the witnesses available to us, just like he's made them available to the Inspector General. But for whatever reason, he doesn't have the same regard for our branch of government that he has for his own.
Well, how about Holder saying, hey, there you go with that magic word again, cover-up. I mean, he wants to call it politics. There's a lot of your folks on your committee say this is about a cover-up.
Well, it's always about the cover-up. It's never, when's the last time somebody just took to the microphone and said, you know what, we made a horrible, horrible mistake. I have punished the following people, starting with myself. That ends it. In fact, in some ways, people respect you more for accepting responsibility. But here we are, more than a year later, after Brian Terry's death. We don't have answers, we don't have accountability, and we don't have an acceptance of responsibility.
Again, talking with Congressman Trey Gowdy. And Congressman, thank you so much, sir, for coming on the program. Look forward to doing this again very soon.
I look forward to it. I appreciate y'all staying on this issue, too. It really is, it so far supersedes politics to me. It's really the fabric of what binds us together as a country.
And thanks for what you're doing. Appreciate it.
Yes, ma'am. Bye-bye.